Hey there, George again with you to make some glass marbles. Just going to situate my various equipment. Then I have a little bit, I'm going to make what I call a torsion marble. It's a marble that rotates on two axi. And I'm going to use some gold and silver leaf and some UV stuff. And this one will differ a little bit from some of my other marbles in the fact that this is going to have some surface work on it as opposed to a regular like Galaxia or Tornado, which has all the surface clear and then the decorations on the inside. This will have both. So I'm setting out, this is gold leaf. The inside will be a stacked dot, which will be gold and silver and UV glass. So it'll be clear, metal, clear, UV, clear, metal. Then that whole thing is going to get turned, and then it's going to get decorated on the outside, and it'll get turned again. I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. That's the way it's going to be. So the first thing I need to do is make sure that I have all my materials ready to go. And I've got my gold leaf out. This is my silver leaf in here. Let's see, can we see it on a regular screen? No, you can't really see it. I don't want to, if I tip it up enough to show you, it's going to blow all over the place. And here we go. There's a piece of silver in that paper. Let's get it out. You can see. So much paper. Alright, here's the silver. Looks small, but it'll look big when it gets shredded up and sparkled along a multiple axis turn. Which is my fancy way of saying I'm going to make a mess. Alright, so I need one more. Alright, nope, I'm going to use these large glass rods to get my gathers. I need the colors that I'm going to do the stripes out of, and I have those pulled in advance. Red. And I need an orange. Here it is. And I'm looking for a yellow. And there we go. Ta-da! And we need some UV glass, which is ultraviolet sensitive glass. I have a couple different kinds. This looks clear, but it's going to be UV active. Do I have a... Sometimes I have a flashlight around here, but there's too many other lights. You wouldn't be able to see it. I'm going to use a whole mess of that. And then I have some glow powder rod. I'm going to use some of that. Alright, so we got all our materials. Let's get going. Fire up our torch, grab my underwear, start our propane. Fire! Let's do that again. Oh, that's huge! Oh no! Stop it! There we go. Oxygen. That's better. Alright, so the first thing to do is to make our stacked dots. I'm flashing this big rod, which means I'm running it, I'm waving it through the flame to bring the temperature up from room temperature up to about 500 degrees. Then I can start really melting it. But up until that point, it'll just crack off and shatter if I don't flash it like that. The end that popped off because I haven't flashed it enough. Or more likely, this one cracked off after I set it down and it started cooling off. Either way, the glass I use is quite temperature sensitive until you get it up to working temperature, and then it's very nice to work with. Once you're done working with it, it has to go into the annealing oven right away, and it's not very forgiving. Originally I liked this glass because of the great colors. quality of it has suffered over the years because their production went way up, and their price also started going up as well, and their quality went. And now they're all over the place as far as supply and demand. So when you see the color that you want, you buy as much as you can get. I still want to switch to some of the older glass blowing colors, and I actually have some parts on order to do just that, hopefully this summer. We'll see. So much other fun glass stuff to do. I'm going to be firing up my electric crucible furnace in another week or two. And for anyone who was watching demonstrations back from October and November of last year, I was doing a lot of furnace work using like some light blue glass that I had saved up. That was quite nice. And then when that was done, I started melting a lot of stained glass sheets from my old stained glass supply store, making marble stands. And whoa, I was just juggling a bunch of them around here. Put them away. That was dumb. Anyway, when you buy marble from me, I throw in one of those cool pressings, just stained glass or whatever glass I have. I throw some flexing agent in there to get them to mix together and work nicely together, and then they get annealed when they're done and end up being pretty. That's a great way to use up all of your other glass, just to make a glass stand for marble. Anyway, here's my first gallery. See, it's getting pretty big, and I'm making it bigger by rolling it back along the rod itself by angling it back towards my hand, just slightly, like maybe 5 to 10 degrees, getting that thing bigger. So now I'm just going to flatten it on my graphite margarine plate. Now I'm going to pick up my gold, which I have ready. The rouge paper just flashed off, and you can see the gold is there, stuck to the glass. And now I'm going to keep this warm in the back flame, and I'm going to flash this other rod and get it going. So that'll take a little while. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, glass colors. So the problem, it's not a problem really, the difference between some of the glass blowing colors and the torch working colors is the torch working ones do come already pulled down into rod size, which is about 5 to 7 millimeters. Great working size for making beads and doing decoration. I pull those rods down into 1 and 2 millimeter rods for decoration, like you saw here at the beginning. Gives me a little more control. I can precisely put my decorations exactly where I want to do. When you order more traditional glass blowing color, you have to preheat the giant chunks, which are about 1 inch to 1.5 inches in diameter rods. You preheat those, get yourself a glass punty rod or a blowpipe with a little bit of glass, hot glass on the end. You pick up your glass color, and then from there you put it in the glory hole or in your burners, wherever you've got to heat up your glass, and then pull it down into the rod shape that you like. Which is nice because you can then control exactly what size rod that you're going to work with afterwards. You can also case the rods in clear if you're working out of a furnace that has clear in it, which is nice. I've done that with colors that I found to be, that I liked as that color, but otherwise felt to be unstable or prone to oxidation or devitrification. But that clear layer does make a crisper edge for some design work, but it also adds a layer to your design work, which sometimes is not what you want. Anyway, you'll get to see all that if and when I do that. But we will be doing some more recycled stained glass type stuff with the elements I have in my current crucible furnace, and the crucible that I have is dirty, and I wouldn't mind getting one more batch out of those before I change it out to fresh stuff. And then when I change it to new elements, new crucible, I'm going to switch to what's called a coefficient of expansion 90 glass. I use a coefficient of expansion 104 right now, which I've been using for the past 25, 30 years. So now I've encased that gold foil in another gather, and now a lot of times I'll do a colored dot in between, which is going to be part of my the wisp, or the little color that gets stretched out in between the foil. This time I'm going to use glow powder that I have pre-melted into a glass matrix. Just a little dot. And the glow powder is kind of ceramic-y dust, so it doesn't want to be included in the glass. It's very grouchy. And you can see it does not want to go melt into this glass. So I'm going to heat it way up and squish it flat. Grouchy glass is okay. It tends not to pull, not to stretch as much. It's more difficult to join your other glass. I'd say when I say grouchy, I mean that it's short on a fluxing agent or something that's lowering the viscosity to the other glass that you're working. That's pretty technical, I guess, and so never mind. That glass is grouchy. We're going to make it do what we want. We'll say please. Oh look, it did what I wanted. Thank you, grouchy glass. Alright, so now I'm going to heat up this other large rod, get a nice gather, and cover over that UV glass. It's UV active, but it's also photonically active, so bright light will activate it, and a UV light will also excite that glass. It's got elements in it which have electrons that will easily jump to a higher shell, energy shell. If you like chemistry, I think it is. So those electrons will jump to that higher energy shell, and as they fall back to their more stable, lower energy shell, they will give off a photon. See it? It's a glow. Pretty neat. Or things just do stuff. That's okay too. I love it when things do stuff. Alright, this is melting, and it's getting swoobly. Let's stick it on here like this. I like to make sound effects. I feel it makes me a better craftsman. Now I'm going to pick up my silver. And my rouge paper that was underneath it just flashed off. So I'm going to keep all this bunch of layers warm in the back flame. Get myself one more clear gather, and then we will detach this whole mess from this giant rod onto some steel handles or punties, and we're going to form it up. We'll give it some twist actually first, give it some light shaping, make it more spherical, less cylindrical. Then we'll give it its initial spin. Then we're going to decorate the surface, and then give it its secondary and tertiary spin. Tertiary. The third one. I just made that up. was looking forward to saying tertiary all day. Alright, let's see if we can see our silver. Let's see our other layers in there. There's the dividing lines between the gathers, so you can't really see what's going on in there just yet. We'll get there in a second. I'll try to show you that. I'm going to add a little bit more glass on top of that. Let's switch to flat. Flat. Keep it warm. Get one more gather off this rod. So when you're doing torch working and you don't have a furnace to dip into to get more clear, using these big rods is a great way to deposit more clear glass onto your project. And if you do it with small rods, you can do it. And the time is similar. You know, you'd be doing more gathers with the small one. But each time you add a gather, you're adding the possibility of trapping air and trapping impurities and making a bunch of join lines where one gather joins the other, which can detract from the design you're trying to do. So here I want the clear to appear monolithic, like it's all one big piece of clear glass, and that stuff got in there as if by magic. And that's called patience of magic. We'll get it in there. It's going to take us an hour. It's fine. We're having a good time. I love the process of melting stuff. And actually, when you're doing it, it starts going pretty fast. So we've already built our whole cylinder. I'm going to round the end of this cylinder a little bit by getting it really hot, shaping it a little bit in the marble mold. And then I'm going to attach a steel handle right here if my finger was the steel handle. And then I'll detach it from this clear rod. So let's turn my heat up just a little bit. Just my propane oxygen ratio. I'm waiting for it to melt. Sometimes it takes a while. A lot of times you're working on glass, you're reheating it, you know, for 30 seconds, a minute, then you get like 3 or 4 seconds to do your thing, and that's it. So if you're working with beads, that time is very short because the glass is short. It's got it sort of has an inertia of temperature. When you're working in the mid-range like this, you get a little bit longer to work. When you see people using the big glass blowing pipes or large, 6-foot punties, they have even more times. Everything's hotter. The pipe is hotter. It's supplying heat to the glass. The glass is hotter. And that's good. You don't want to be wrestling with cold glass. But it's nice to have enough time to do what you want before it starts freezing back up. So here we've heated up. You can see the layers in there now that all those gathers have joined. And then I'm going to just get one last half minute of heating, and then I'm going to shape the free end into a slightly more cylindrical shape. So now I'm going to grab a steel punty. Get it really hot. Like that hot. No hotter. Yes, that hot. No hotter. And we're going to just bore into that glass surface just a little bit to get a good grab. And now we're going to melt this. So my finger looks close there, but it's not. I can change the apparent closeness of my finger by changing the angle, which is tricky. Awesome. But also because just the one camera, everything appears a little flatter from the monocular view. Unlike having both your eyes to look at stuff, you can really gauge where things are in the field. With just one lens, you're constrained by size, and you can get fooled. Alright, so now I'm going to heat this free end that was attached to the big rod. Then I'm going to shape that approximately spherical. It doesn't have to be super close. Then I'm going to start imposing my twist on it. I'm going to twist it like 6 or 7 times around. To get the inside to move 6 or 7 times, we'll move those punties around. It's going to feel like 200 times to get that motion to transfer through to the center. It's really not 200 times. It feels like more, though, just to get those couple of rotations interiorly. If you have your heat balanced throughout the marble, you'll get closer to the rotation inside as you do on the handle. But in practical terms, the outside of the marble is going to be hotter. The handle attachment points are going to be hotter. It's going to spin more on the ends than it is in the center. I try to minimize that if I can by controlling the heat and making sure that I'm taking my time to rotate it in a controlled fashion, especially if I have design elements which are on the outside of the marble and the inside of the marble. Because I'm showing off. That's right. Whatever. I like making marbles. Alright, so now I'm going to switch my axis. So I'm going to be attached on the edge of the foil. Actually, I'm going to go for the edge of the UV layer. I've got my attachment, my new attachment points in there. I can heat this original metal handle, pull it out of the marble. And then there's a little divot, just checking it for any dirty stuff left from the punting rod. I just filed and resanded these ends, so they are nice and clean. And that took me so long. I'd be like making marbles, I'm like, oh, I should clean these punties off. And then all of a sudden I'm working on the next marble and I'm like, oh, I should clean these punties off. And then I'm like, I'll do it tomorrow. And so you make like 4 marbles or whatever. And then the next day you start halfway through the first marble. You're like, oh, I should clean these punties off. Rewind. Reset. So, on Monday I was making marbles, and I actually stopped after the first marble, took all my punties over to the belt sander, and cleaned them up. Now I'm starting to spin in that marble. Sweep it around. This is a great time in the marble's design life. I have, from this point, I have several different things I can do to this marble, and all of them I just love. I think there's so much room for experimentation and having a good time with this design. Give it a little bit more. Trying to even heat up. Again, I'm showing some signs of it being uneven, pulling on the whole marble out of shape. So, get some more heat, let it soak in. Get that spin in there. Got a little more spin on this side than I do on this side, so let's see if we can get that the way we like. Alright, now I've got that spun almost as much as I want. I'm going to stop there. Pull one punty handle off. And then to smooth the outsides of this marble. Almost marble. Soon to be marble. Marble wannabe. I'm going to sort of just make it a little sphere ovalish. I made up a new word. Sphere ovalish. Nice. I'm going to name a breakfast cereal that. Crunchy sphere ovals. Alright, so I'm going to put some stripes down this new. This will be lines of longitude on the marble. I'm not going to go all the way to the poles. Go orange, 180 degrees opposite, do orange again. Now so there's my orange ones. Now let's do some red next to the orange. And repeat on the other side. And we're going to do those two. Now let's go to the other side of the orange original stripe. Put some yellow down. And now I'm going to find my UV rod. It's stuck. Nice stripes. Now the UV is mostly invisible, so I'm going to do a couple stripes of the UV. Be a nice big one. I'll do a double line. Do a double line on the other side. Alright, so I put all my stripes on there. It's a total of 10 stripes. It's looking. You can just see that UV striping. Let's get it heated up. Get my punty back on there. And I'll give it some rotation. Melt all those stripes in. First, just a little bit. I got a couple blobs on the ends where you can see blob. And down there, those are nice. When I say blobs, I mean you can see that the ends are a little bit bulbous where the glass initially touched the clear. And that's okay if it's consistent. I had two which I had deposited some additional glass. I didn't want that to be a distraction to the design later, so this was the time to fix that, so I went ahead and fixed it. It only took a second. Just take that little bit off of there where I thought it was like too much. That's my pick. I like to fix stuff where I can. And for glass, it's better if you try to fix it, just fix it that one time. If you don't succeed, catch it again on the next marble. Don't try too many times on the same marble, because then you'll be trying to fix the problem from you not quite fixing the first problem. See what I mean? And then you're fixing like trails of after effect from the problems previous rather than the initial problem you were trying to correct, and you'll just drive yourself crazy. So try one time, fix it. If you can do it, yay. If you can't, oh well. Do the next one. It's glass, it's going to look good. Sparkly and stuff. Alright, so I'm getting this thing to twist now the way I like. You can see those lines trying to go around. I don't want them to become a big mess at the ends. So I'm just trying to twist the middle mostly. So because this is soft glass, I can't pull it out into a big rod, twist it where I want, and then recollapse it, because I most likely do some damage. Alright, I got the spin I wanted in there. Sweet! Swing! Now, let's take off one of the attachment rods. I'm just going to sphere it up a little bit. I had made it a little bit oval to put those stripes on, and to get a little more control over to which the way that those stripes were going to rotate around when I started imparting a spin. And so now, you see, I have the end going for this. Sort of the way I like it. Same thing on this end. And now you can look through the marble and see the back sides of the stripes. And it's like, swish. I love that. So, alright, now, I could stop here, but I'm going to go ahead and mess everything up by making it more complicated. Back to the original axis of rotation. Because part of the design I want to do. I'm just straightening it up. Okay, a little bit. Pulled out of shape a little bit, so I'm using rotation and heat and gravity to put it back the way I want. Now I'm going to attach my handle on the opposite end of this axis. I had to go a little off axis because I didn't want to touch those stripes. And now I'm going to heat that middle again for the first time. Some spin there. I made a marble like this. It was a demo last year. I called it a clear base torsion. And I'd love to do a bunch of those. And I did a few. But I was thinking about those again the other day. And I thought, oh, I would love to try those again, not only the way I did them that other time, but also I have a couple of new ideas I would like to get in there. So I could have like those lines, instead of them coming to a point, they'd be like reaching around, trying to grab each other like a yin-yang symbol, and it worked out. Anyway, I guess I'm not going to make any of those other models. I'm going to make a couple of these. I'm using my marble mold to get the marble rounded up to begin with. Now, doing the final rounding here, and I'm beginning the final rounding is what I should say. Detach that handle that I was imparting spin with. I got it pretty spherical, but there's some fairly deep ripples in there. So I'm going to run it through the marble molds and the spherical graphite. One more time, just quickly, using a bigger mold to approximate the sphere, and then a smaller one to really sphere it up. got all those big ripples out. So go in there. Fun marble. Now, I'm going to heat the outside and give it a little pass through my cherry wood molds. Get all the ripples out of the surface. Firm up this surface on this side. Put some of the heat out this end. Some marble. Then we'll switch to a glass punty on this side. Finish up the side that's still connected on that. In my hand right now. Alright, so cherry wood marble molds. There we go. Basically a paddle of wood. A bunch of holes drilled in it. It's been soaked in water. And I'm just using the rim of the mold. I use 3 or 4, a couple seconds each. And I'm going to use a glass rod as my last handle. The attachment point will be small. Just want to get any dirty glass off the end from the previous punty attachment. So now shape it to a pencil point. I'm going to heat up the surface of the marble to the right temperature. Heat up the punty to the right temperature, and oops, too much. Over there. Alright, there we go. Tiny attachment point. Ooh, that's my clown nose look. Neater, neater, neater. Now I'm going to detach the steel rod. And check my end for any weird stuff. It's not smooth, but there's no deposits from that punty rod. When they get older, they'll leave little particles of metal or oxidation. Just pick them out real quick with tweezers. So now, key in the end, I'm going to run it through the marble mold. The bigger ones, the smaller ones. Didn't quite get it as round as I'd like, so back in the flame. I mean, I'm sure it's round, but it's not spherical. Now, let's give one more pass to the marble molds. Bigger size, smaller. Got a bump on there that I can feel when I'm putting it through the marble molds for some reason. So I'm just looking for that. And we'll end up putting it through the marble molds one more time. Although it's looking very smooth and spherical. It's got an angry little ball of gold and silver foil and UV glow glass in the middle. On the outside, on the surface, delicate stripes of orange, red, and yellow. Also, a different kind of UV active glass. We got that bump out there. That's felt good. Now let's do the last. This side, unattached side, with the cherry wood marble molds. And we'll get this thing smooth as glass. It's easy to trap. A little ripple, a little surface defect in there. Another thing you just drive yourself crazy about. Perfect. When you get it real close, then you have to say, all right, that's good enough. And then as you do more and more of them, they come up smoother and smoother. Your standards go up and up. Pretty soon no one can tell what you're talking about if you're looking at something that's not quite right. Ah, that's not right. You're crazy. It's fine. Alright, so now I'm going to chill that last attachment point. Little scissors. Get them wet and dry. If I have them wet, then they're going to cause secondary cracking. Chill it, tap it, it'll pop right off. Come back and get this torch, polish that last little bit. Alright, chill the connection point, tap it off. Tap any soot out of the torch. Polish that last little bit. And I'm going to take a few seconds to make sure I get it nice and smooth and clean. I'm not burning it or oxidizing it, but letting it get smooth. I'm going to take these little tweezer thingies. This is just wire that's bent with some circles on the end, got a little spring in it. Heat those till orange hot, and then let them cool back down until they hit about 900 degrees. And I'm going to pick up my marble. And now I'm going to put it in the annealing oven. And this one is about 1.25 inches. It's going to need to stay in there 2 hours, and then I can ramp the temperature down. Alright, it's in there. And sometime before next week, I will post some pictures of that. And I got a new way to put the picture at the beginning of the video, which I'll repost on YouTube, and I'll post a link to that in the Facebook group. Alright, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Have a good one.